last video I kind of touched on how to put the Blade 230S in a scale fuselage, and the problem with that is you have an electric tail motor which does not slide down through the fuselage. So here's the modification. I showed this in the last video, how you modify the tail motor mount to have a hole in it right there. As you can see, where the motor wires come out of the tail motor mount and run external of the tail boom, and the motor mount screw holes have to be moved over a few degrees to allow for the wires to point down now instead of through the tail boom. And what I've done here is I've bundled the wires together with 3 little pieces of Scotch tape. Okay, so the way we do this is you just fish this down the inside of the fuselage just like this. Get the wires hanging in there as far as you can. So the wires now come out in the fuselage here. Alright, this is super tight fit, and this is not easy, so if I cuss, forgive me. Okay, I'm going to add a piece of foam in here to kind of absorb a little bit of the vibration inside of the fuselage. Fiberglass fuselage kind of acts like an amplifier for any little gear noise or anything, so I'm just going to kind of tuck that in right there. I've got a hole in the center for the tail boom. And you got to hold the tail motor to make sure it stays put, and get the wires in position where you want them, preferably off to the left side of the fuselage just slightly. Okay, I'm going to stick the tail boom in, and we're only going to partially insert the mechanics in. I'm going to spread the fuselage a little bit for the spur gear. Alright, I don't know if you can see it. Let me grab a flashlight. But inside the fuselage, right there, you see the tail motor wires laying down, and the plug-ins for the tail motor wires are right here on the back side of the speed control. So the hard part is reaching in there and grabbing the wires and plugging them into the speed control. So I'm going to hold the rotor blades out of the way. I use needle nose pliers and long tweezers, just whatever I can reach in there and get. And when you grab the wires, grab them by the actual, just behind the plug-in itself. Don't grab the little wire part of it. And I can't even see these in here. Did I mention that this is a real pain in the butt? And this is not easy. You have to really want a fuselage on your helicopter really bad to go through all this trouble to put it on there. And this is a total pain in the ass. Alright, red wire's plugged in. Okay, now let's see if I can find the next one. Now you could make some extensions for the wires, which would make this a little bit easier, but then you're going to have a lot of wire bunched up inside the fuselage in there. Alright, I got the black one. Alright, black one is plugged in. One left. Got the blue one right here. I can't even reach it. Okay, we've got the blue one on the speed controller. And it slipped. Come on. There. Alright. So try to get the video of that in there. You can see now that the wires are plugged in. Okay. So that's the hardest part. Now I have to spread the fuselage a little bit to get all this to go in. Working it in slowly. And I'm still hanging up on something. The cat's going crazy in the back room. There we go. Alright, now you push it in as far back as it'll go, and now there should be enough slack in the wires to be able to carefully, don't pull on the wires because you don't want to unplug them. You saw what a pain in the ass it is to get them back on. Sit here and get the tail motor housing to go up onto the tail boom. Push it all the way on as far as it'll go, and you'll feel it. It has like a slot in there, so you know when it's in all the way. Alright, now that we've got that plugged on, then you want to shine your light back up in here. Make sure that you didn't unplug anything when you did that. And I see all my wires are still plugged in. This is a aileron extension wire. It's plugged into the bind port of the receiver, because obviously you saw what a pain in the butt that is to take apart and put back together. If you have to rebind this for any reason, you don't want to have to go through all that to do it. Also, I've added an extension to the battery wire where the battery plugs in, because the battery wire on these comes out right underneath the frame, right under here, and you just can't reach under there to plug in the battery. So you'll need to put an extension on it right there. This one has some lights in it, so that's what these little plug-ins are, and I have a Y harness that I plug in for that, but I'm not going to worry about plugging the lights in right now. But after you get that in there, I've already got my screw holes drilled, and I just use 4 screws to mount it to the fuselage, and using the same bolt holes that the skids bolt up to. So when you're putting this all together, you have to make sure you get this centered in there so that the spur gear does not rub the sides, and cut out enough around here to have clearance for all your mechanics to work without binding up on anything. And there you have it.